In the last episode, we saw Geoffrey Fourmyle of Ceres make his foray into the world of the social elites. With the help of Robin Wednesbury, he ingratiated himself to many of the upper class by attending a New Year's Eve party in Canberra and entertaining them with his eccentricity and, thanks to Robin, wit. The real reason for selecting the party in Canberra was to locate and interrogate the first of the three former Vorga crew members known to Foyle, Ben Forrest. Gully Foyle was determined to get answers from him. After some unexpected trouble with Forrest, they succeeded in cornering him on the beach. Questions about Vorga and the Nomad elicited a response of sheer terror and resistance from him. Just as he finally started to tell Foyle what he knew, he died, disappointing Foyle and horrifying Robin. In the next instant, both she and Gully saw what seemed to be an apparition on the beach. A large man with hideous facial scars glowing bright red and clothes entirely ablaze appeared momentarily. This vision unnerved Foyle, as it seemed to be an image of himself, while Robin declared it to be a vision of Foyle burning in hell. After gathering his wits and determination, Foyle continued his hunt. As Geoffrey Fourmyle, he and Robin attended another ball, this time in Shanghai. After again making a splash among the upper crust, Gully and Robin went to find the second former crew member of the Vorga. This was Sonia Orel, who was now operating a dubious medical facility, which offered, among other things, increased jaunting ability. After leading Gully and Robin, apparent prospective customers, to her office, and jaunting several times in the process as a demonstration, she began to explain her process to them. Foyle accelerated, gave her a blow on her temporal lobe to disable her jaunting as well as knock her out, and tied her to an electric chair. When she awoke, he began questioning her about the Vorga and its run-in with the Nomad. She had the same response as Forrest: initial terror, followed by an attempt to tell what she knew, followed by immediate death. At this point, Foyle figured out that both of them had been subjected to sympathetic blocks, a form of conditioning normally used for espionage agents in the event of capture. The conditioning tied particular knowledge to the nervous system, respiration, and heartbeat. Any attempt to access and express that information would result in instant death. Again, the apparition of the flaming man took shape before them, then disappeared. Foyle was unnerved as before. Robin pointed out that the papers near the apparition had caught fire. Unable to extinguish the flame without help from Foyle, who was too shaken to move, Robin convinced Foyle to leave. Foyle pulled himself together and told Robin to jaunt to Rome, the location of the third and last person from the Vorga whose name Foyle had managed to obtain. Will Foyle find his witness? If so, will the witness talk or die trying? Find out in episode 11 of The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. Since the Middle Ages, the Spanish stairs have been the center of corruption in Rome. Rising from the Piazza di Spagna to the gardens of the Via Borghese in a broad, long sweep, the Spanish stairs are, have been, and always will be swarming with vice. Pimps lounge on the stairs, whores, perverts, catamites. Insolent and arrogant, they display themselves and jeer at the respectables who sometimes pass. The Spanish stairs were destroyed in the fission wars of the late 20th century. They were rebuilt and destroyed again in the War of the World Restoration in the 21st century. Once more, they were rebuilt and this time covered over with blast-proof crystal, turning the stairs into a stepped galleria. The dome of the galleria cut off the view from the death chamber in Keats's house. No longer would visitors peep through the narrow window and see the last sight that met the dying poet's eyes. Now they saw the smoky dome of the Spanish stairs, and through it, the distorted figures of corruption below. The Galleria of the Stairs was illuminated at night, and this New Year's Eve was chaotic. For 1,000 years, Rome has welcomed the new year with a bombardment: firecrackers, rockets, torpedoes, gunshots, bottles, shoes, old pots and pans. For months, Romans saved junk to be hurled out of top floor windows when midnight strikes. The roar of fireworks inside the stairs and the clatter of debris clashing on the Galleria roof were deafening as Foyle and Robin Wednesbury climbed down from the carnival in the Borghese Palace. They were still in costume. Foyle in the livid crimson and black tights and doublet of Cesare Borgia, Robin wearing the silver-encrusted gown of Lucrezia Borgia. They wore grotesque velvet masks. The contrast between their Renaissance costumes and the modern clothes around them brought forth jeers and catcalls. Even the lobos who frequented the Spanish stairs, the unfortunate habitual criminals who had had a quarter of their brains burned out by prefrontal lobotomy, were aroused from their dreary apathy to stare. The mob seethed around the couple as they descended the Galleria.
Paggi. Angelo Paggi?
Abad bellowed anatomical adjurations at him.
Paggi. Angelo Paggi. I'm told he can be found on the stairs at night. Angelo Paggi.
A whore maligned his mother.
Angelo Paggi. 10 credits to anyone who brings me to him.
Foyle was ringed with extended hands, some filthy, some scented, all greedy. He shook his head.
Show me first.
Roman rage crackled around him.
Paggi. Angelo Paggi.
After 6 weeks of loitering on the Spanish stairs, Captain Peter Yang Yeovil at last heard the words he had hoped to hear. 6 weeks of tedious assumption of the identity of one Angelo Paggi, chef's assistant off the Vorga, long dead, was finally paying off. It had been a gamble, first risked when intelligence had brought the news to Captain Yang Yeovil that someone was making cautious inquiries about the crew of the pristine Vorga and paying heavily for information.
It's a long shot, but Gully Foyle did make that lunatic attempt to blow up Vorga. And 20 pounds of pyre is worth a long shot.
Now he waddled up the stairs toward the man in the Renaissance costume and mask. He had put on 40 pounds weight with glandular shots. He had darkened his complexion with diet manipulation. His features, never of an Oriental cast, but cut more along the hawk-like lines of the ancient Native American, easily fell into an unreliable pattern with a little muscular control. The intelligence man waddled up the Spanish stairs, a gross cook with a larcenous countenance. He extended a package of soiled envelopes toward Foyle.
Filthy pictures, signore. Stellar Christians, kneeling, praying, singing psalms, kissing cross. Very naughty, very smutty, signore. Entertain your friends, excite the ladies.
No,
Foyle brushed the pornography aside.
I'm looking for Angelo Paggi.
Yang Yeovil signaled microscopically. His crew on the stairs began photographing and recording the interview without ceasing its pimping and whoring. The secret speech of the intelligence tongue of the inner planet's armed forces wigwagged around Foyle and Robin in a hail of tiny ticks, sniffs, gestures, attitudes, motions. It was the ancient Chinese sign language of eyelids, eyebrows, fingertips, and infinitesimal body motions.
Signore?
Angelo Paggi?
Si, signore. I am Angelo Paggi.
Chef's assistant off the Vorga.
Expecting the same start of terror manifested by Forrest and Orell, which he at least understood, Foyle shot out a hand and grabbed Yang Yeovil's elbow.
Yes?
Si, signore. How can I serve your worship?
Maybe this one can come through. He's not scared. Maybe he knows a way around the block. I want information from you, Paji.
Of what nature, signore? And at what price?
I want to buy all you've got. Anything you've got. Name your price.
But, signore, I'm a man full of years and experience. I am not to be bought in wholesale lots. I must be paid item by item. Make your selection, and I will name the price. What do you want?
You were aboard Vorga on September 16, 2436?
The cost of that item is 10.
Foyle smiled mirthlessly and paid.
I was, signore.
I want to know about a ship you passed out near the asteroid belt. The wreck of the Nomad. You passed her on September 16. Nomad signaled for help, and Vorga passed her by. Who gave that order?
Ah, signore.
Who gave you that order, and why?
Why do you ask, signore?
Never mind why I ask. Name the price and talk.
I must know why a question is asked before I answer, signore.
Yang Yovel smiled greasily.
And I will pay for my caution by cutting the price. Why are you interested in Vorga and Nomad and this shocking abandonment in space? Were you perhaps the unfortunate who was so cruelly treated?
He's not Italian. His accent's perfect, but the speech pattern's all wrong. No Italian would frame sentences like that.
Foyle stiffened in alarm. Yang Yovel's eyes, sharpened to detect and deduce from minutiae, caught the change in attitude. He realized at once that he had slipped somehow. He signaled to his crew urgently. A white-hot brawl broke out on the Spanish stairs. In an instant, Foyle and Robin were caught up in a screaming, struggling mob. The crews of the intelligence tong were past masters of this op-eye maneuver, designed to outwit a jaunting world. Their split-second timing could knock any man off balance and strip him for identification. Their success was based on the simple fact that between unexpected assault and defensive response, there must always be a recognition lag. Within the space of that lag, the intelligence tong guaranteed to prevent any man from saving himself. In 3/5 of a second, Foyle was battered, kneed, hammered across the forehead, dropped to the steps, and spread-eagled. The mask was plucked from his face, portions of his clothes torn away, and he was ripe and helpless for the rape of the identification cameras. Then, for the first time in the history of the tong, their schedule was interrupted. A man appeared, straddling Foyle's body. A huge man with a hideously tattooed face and clothes that smoked and flamed. The apparition was so appalling that the crew stopped dead and stared. A howl went up from the crowd on the stairs at the dreadful spectacle.
The burning man! Look, the burning man!
But that's Foyle.
For perhaps a quarter of a minute, the apparition stood, silent, burning, staring with blind eyes. Then it disappeared. The man, spread-eagled on the ground, disappeared too. He turned into a lightning blur of action that whipped through the crew, locating and destroying cameras, recorders, all identification apparatus. Then the blur seized the woman in the Renaissance gown and vanished. The Spanish stairs came to life again, painfully, as though struggling out of a nightmare. The bewildered intelligence crew clustered around Yang Yovel.
What in God's name was that, yo?
I think it was our man, Gully Foyle. You saw that tattooed face.
And the burning clothes?
Looked like a witch at the stake.
But if that burning man was Foyle, who in hell were we wasting our time on?
I don't know. Does the Commando Brigade have an intelligence service they haven't bothered to mention to us?
Why the commandos, yo?
You saw the way he accelerated, didn't you? He destroyed every record we made.
I still can't believe my eyes.
Oh, you can believe what you didn't see, all right. That was top secret commando technique. They take their men apart and rewire and re-gear them. I'll have to check with Mars HQ and find out whether Commando Brigade's running a parallel investigation.
Does the Army tell the Navy?
They'll tell intelligence. This case is critical enough without jurisdictional hassles. And another thing, there was no need to manhandle that woman in the maneuver. It was undisciplined and unnecessary.
Yang Yovel paused, for once unaware of the significant glances passing around him.
I must find out who she is.
If she's been re-geared too, it'll be real interesting, yo. Boy meets commando.
Yang Yovel flushed.
All right, I'm transparent.
Just repetitious, yeah. All your romances start the same way. There's no need to manhandle that woman. And then Dolly Quaker, Jean Webster, Gwyn Roget, Marion.
No names, please. Does Romeo tell Juliet?
You're all going on the train assignment tomorrow. I'm damned if I'll stand for this salacious insubordination. No, not tomorrow, but as soon as this case is closed.
His hawk face darkened.
My God, what a mess. Will you ever forget Foyle standing there like a burning brand? But where is he? What's he up to? What's it all mean?
Prestane of Prestane's mansion in Central Park was ablaze for the new year. Charming antique electric bulbs with zigzag filaments and pointed tips shed yellow light. The jaunt-proof maze had been removed, and the great door was opened for the special occasion. The interior of the house was protected from the gaze of the crowd outside by a jeweled screen just inside the door. The sightseers buzzed and exclaimed as the famous and near famous of clan and sept arrived by car, by coach, by litter, by every form of luxurious transportation. Prestane of Prestane himself stood before the door, iron gray, handsome, smiling his basilisk smile, and welcomed society to his open house. Hardly had a celebrity stepped through the door and disappeared behind the screen when another, even more famous, came clattering up in a vehicle even more fabulous. The Colas arrived in a bandwagon. The Esso family, 6 sons, 3 daughters, was magnificent in a glass-topped Greyhound bus. But Greyhound arrived hard on their heels in an Edison electric runabout, and there was much laughter and chaffing at the door. But when Edison of Westinghouse dismounted from his Esso-fueled gasoline buggy, completing the circle, the laughter on the steps turned to a roar. Just as the crowd of guests turned to enter Prestane's home, a distant commotion attracted their attention. It was a rumble, a fierce chatter of pneumatic punches, and an outrageous metallic bellowing. It approached rapidly. The outer fringe of sightseers opened a broad lane. A heavy truck rumbled down the lane. 6 men were tumbling balks of timber out the back of the truck. Following them came a crew of 20, arranging the balks neatly in rows. Prestane and his guests watched with amazement. A giant machine, bellowing and pounding, approached, crawling over the ties. Behind it were deposited parallel rails of welded steel. Crews with sledges and pneumatic punches spiked the rails to the timber ties. The track was laid to Prestane's door in a sweeping arc and then curved away. The bellowing engine and crews disappeared into the darkness.
Good God.
Guests poured out of the house to watch. A shrill whistle sounded in the distance. Down the track came a man on a white horse carrying a large red flag. Behind him panted a steam locomotive drawing a single observation car. The train stopped before Prestane's door. A conductor swung down from the car, followed by a Pullman porter. The porter arranged steps. A lady and gentleman in evening clothes descended. The gentleman spoke to the conductor.
Shan't be long. Come back for me in an hour.
Good God.
The train puffed off. The couple mounted the steps.
Good evening, Prestane. Terribly sorry about that horse messing up your grounds. But the old New York franchise still insists on the red flag in front of trains.
Fourmyle.
Fourmyle of Ceres.
Prestane's party was now an assured success. Inside the vast velvet and plush reception hall, Prestane examined Fourmyle curiously. Foyle endured the keen iron-gray gaze with equanimity, meanwhile nodding and smiling to the enthusiastic admirers he had acquired from Canberra to New York, with whom Robin Wednesbury was chatting.
Control, blood, bowels, and brain. He grilled me in his office for 1 hour after that crazy attempt I made on Vorga. Will he recognize me?
Your face is familiar, Prestane. Have we met before?
I have not had the honor of meeting a Fourmyle until tonight.
Foyle had trained himself to read men, but Prestane's hard, handsome face was inscrutable. Standing face to face, the one detached and compelled, the other reserved and indomitable. They looked like a pair of brazen statues at white heat on the verge of running molten.
I'm told that you boast of being an upstart Fourmyle.
Yes. I've patterned myself after the first Prestane.
Indeed.
You'll remember that he boasted of starting the family fortune in the plasma black market during the Third World War.
It was a second war, Fourmyle, but the hypocrites of our clan never acknowledged him. The name was Payne then.
I hadn't known.
And what was your unhappy name before you changed it to Fourmyle?
It was Prestane.
Indeed.
The basilisk smile acknowledged the hit.
You claim a relationship with our clan?
I will claim it in time.
Of what degree?
Let's say a blood relationship.
How interesting. I detect a certain fascination for blood in you, Fourmyle.
No doubt a family weakness, Prestane.
You're pleased to be cynical, but you speak the truth. We have always had a fatal weakness for blood and money. It is our vice, I admit it.
And I share it.
A passion for blood and money?
Indeed I do. Most passionately.
Without mercy, without forgiveness, without hypocrisy?
Without mercy, without forgiveness, without hypocrisy.
Fourmyle, you are a young man after my own heart. If you do not claim a relationship with our clan, I shall be forced to adopt you.
You're too late, Prestane. I've already adopted you.
Prestane took Foyle's arm.
You must be presented to my daughter, Lady Olivia. Will you allow me?
They crossed the reception hall. Foyle hesitated, wondering whether he should call Robin to his side for impending emergencies, but he was too triumphant.
He doesn't know. He'll never know. But I'll never know if he does know. He's crucible steel. He could teach me a thing or two about control.
Acquaintances hailed Fourmyle.
Wonderful deception you worked in Shanghai.
Marvelous carnival in Rome, wasn't it? Did you hear about the Burning Man who appeared on the Spanish stairs?
We looked for you in London.
What a heavenly entrance that was.
Harriet Sherwin-Williams called.
Outdid us all, Fourmyle. Made us look like a pack of damned pikers.
You forget yourself, Harry. You know I permit no profanity in my home.
Sorry, Princeton. Where's the circus now, Fourmyle?
I don't know. Just a moment.
A crowd gathered, grinning in anticipation of the latest 4-mile folly. He took out a platinum watch and snapped open the case. The face of a valet appeared on the dial.
Whatever your name is, where are we staying just now?
You gave orders to make New York your permanent residence, Fourmyle.
Oh, did I? And?
We bought St. Patrick's Cathedral, Fourmyle.
And where is that?
Old St. Patrick's, Fourmyle, on 5th Avenue, and what was formerly 50th Street. We've pitched the camp inside.
Thank you.
4-mile closed the Platinum Hunter.
My address is Old St. Patrick's, New York. There's one thing to be said for the outlawed religions. At least they built churches big enough to house a circus.
Olivia Prestane was seated on a dais, surrounded by admirers paying court to this beautiful albino daughter of Prestane. She was strangely and wonderfully blind, for she could see in the infrared only, from 7,500 angstroms to 1 millimeter wavelengths, far below the normal visible spectrum. She saw heat waves, magnetic fields, radio waves. She saw her admirers in a strange light of organic emanations against a background of red radiation. She was a snow maiden, an ice princess with coral eyes and coral lips, imperious, mysterious, unattainable. Foyle looked at her once and lowered his eyes in confusion before the blind gaze that could only see him as electromagnetic waves and infrared light. His pulse began to beat faster. 100 lightning fantasies about himself and Olivia Prestane flashed in his heart.
Don't be a fool. Control yourself. Stop dreaming. This can be dangerous.
He was introduced, was addressed in a husky, silvery voice, was given a cool, slim hand, but the hand seemed to explode within his with an electric shock. It was almost a start of mutual recognition, almost a joining of emotional impact.
This is insane. She's a symbol, the dream princess, the unattainable. Control.
He was fighting so hard that he scarcely realized he had been dismissed, graciously and indifferently. He could not believe it. He stood, gaping like a lout.
What? Are you still here, Fourmyle?
I couldn't believe I'd been dismissed, Lady Olivia.
Hardly that, but I'm afraid you are in the way of my friends.
I'm not used to being dismissed.
No, all wrong.
At least by someone I'd like to count as a friend.
Don't be tedious, Fourmyle. Do step down.
How have I offended you?
Offended me? Now you're being ridiculous.
Lady Olivia.
Can't I say anything right? Where's Robin?
Can we start again, please?
If you're trying to be gauche, Fourmyle, you're succeeding admirably.
Your hand again, please. Thank you. I'm Fourmyle of Ceres.
All right, I'll concede you're a clown. Now do step down. I'm sure you can find someone to amuse.
What's happened this time?
Really, sir, are you trying to make me angry?
No.
Yes, I am. Trying to touch you somehow. Cut through the ice.
The first time our hand clasp was violent. Now it's nothing. What happened?
Fourmyle, I'll concede that you're amusing, original, witty, fascinating. Anything, if you will only go away.
He stumbled off the dais.
Bitch. No, she's the dream, just as I dreamed her, the icy pinnacle to be stormed and taken, to lay siege, invade, ravish, force to her knees.
He came face to face with Saul Dagenham. He stood paralyzed, coercing blood and bowels.
Ah, Fourmyle, this is Saul Dagenham. He can only give us 30 minutes of his, and he insists on spending one of them with you.
Does he know? Did he send for Dagenham to make sure? Attack. De jour de la das.
What happened to your face, Dagenham?
The death head smiled.
I thought I was famous. Radiation poisoning. I'm hot. Time was when they said, hotter than a pistol. Now they say, hotter than Dagenham.
The deadly eyes raked Foyle.
What's behind that circus of yours?
A passion for notoriety.
I'm an old hand at camouflage myself. I recognize the signs. What's your larceny?
Did Dillinger tell Capone?
Foyle smiled back, beginning to relax, restraining his triumph.
I'll face them both.
You look happier, Dagenham.
Instantly, he realized the slip. Dagenham picked it up in a flash.
Happier than when? Where did we meet before?
Not happier than when. Happier than me.
Foyle turned to Prestane.
I've fallen desperately in love with Lady Olivia.
Saul, your half hour is up.
Dagenham and Prestane on either side of Foyle turned. A tall woman approached, stately in an emerald evening gown, her red hair gleaming. It was Gisbella McQueen. Their glances met. Before the shock could seethe into his face, Foyle turned, ran 6 steps to the first door he saw, opened it, and darted through. The door slammed behind him. He was in a short, blind corridor. There was a click, a pause, and then a canned voice spoke courteously.
You have invaded a private portion of this residence. Please retire.
Foyle gasped and struggled with himself.
You have invaded a private portion of this residence. Please retire.
I never knew. Thought she was killed out there. She recognized me.
You have invaded a private portion of this residence. Please retire.
I'm finished. She'll never forgive me. Must be telling Dagenham and Prestane now.
The door from the reception hall opened, and for a moment, Foyle thought he saw his flaming image. Then he realized he was looking at Gisbella's flaming hair. She made no move, just stood and smiled at him in furious triumph. He straightened.
By God, I won't go down whining.
Without haste, Foyle sauntered out of the corridor, took Gisbella's arm, and led her back to the reception hall. He never bothered to look around for Dagenham or Prestane. They would present themselves with force and arms in due time. He smiled at Gisbella. She smiled back, still in triumph.
Thanks for running away, Gully. I never dreamed it could be so satisfying.
Running away? My dear Belle.
Well,
I can't tell you how lovely you're looking tonight. We've come a long way from Geoffrey Martel, haven't we?
Foyle motioned to the ballroom.
Dance?
Her eyes widened in surprise at his composure. She permitted him to escort her to the ballroom and take her in his arms.
By the way, Belle, how did you manage to keep out of Geoffrey Martel?
Dagenham arranged it. So you dance now, Gully?
I dance, speak 4 languages, miserably, study science and philosophy, write pitiful poetry, blow myself up with idiotic experiments, fence like a fool, box like a buffoon. In short, I'm the notorious Fourmyle of Ceres.
No longer Gully Foyle.
Only to you, dear, and whoever you've told.
Just Dagenham. Are you sorry I blew your secret?
You couldn't help yourself any more than I could.
No, I couldn't. Your name just popped out of me. What would you have paid me to keep my mouth shut?
Don't be a fool, Belle. This accident's going to earn you about 18 million.
What do you mean?
I told you I'd give you whatever was left over after I finished Vorga.
You've finished Vorga?
No, dear, you've finished me. But I'll keep my promise.
Generous Gully Foyle. Be real generous, Gully. Make a run for it. Entertain me a little.
Squealing like a rat? I don't know how, Belle. I'm trained for hunting, nothing else.
And I killed the tiger. Give me one satisfaction, Gully. Say you were close to Vorga. I ruined you and you're half a step from the finish, yes?
I wish I could, Belle, but I can't. I'm nowhere. I was trying to pick up another lead here tonight.
Poor Gully. Maybe I can help you out of this jam. I can say, oh, that I made a mistake, or a joke, that you really aren't Gully Foyle. I know how to confuse Saul. I can do it, Gully, if you still love me.
He looked down at her and shook his head.
It's never been love between us, Belle. You know that. I'm too one-track to be anything but a hunter.
Too one-track to be anything but a fool.
What did you mean, Belle? Dagenham arranged to keep you out of Gopher Martell. You know how to confuse Saul Dagenham? What have you got to do with him?
I work for him. I'm one of his couriers.
You mean he's blackmailing you? Threatening to send you back if you don't
No,
do...
we hit it off the minute we met. He started off capturing me. I ended up capturing him.
How do you mean?
Can't you guess?
He stared at her. Her eyes were veiled, but he understood.
Belle! With him? But how?
There are precautions. I don't want to talk about it, Gully. Sorry.
He's a long time returning.
Returning?
Dagenham. With his army.
Oh, yes, of course. You don't know what a tightrope you've been walking, Gully. If you'd begged or bribed or tried to romance me, by God, I'd have ruined you. I'd have told the world who you were, screamed it from the housetops.
What are you talking about?
Saul isn't returning. He doesn't know. You could go to hell on your own.
I don't believe you.
Do you think it would take him this long to get you? Saul Dagenham?
But why didn't you tell him? After the way I ran out on you.
Because I don't want him going to hell with you. I'm not talking about Vorga. I mean something else. Pyre. That's why they hunted you. That's what they're after. 20 pounds of pyre.
What's that?
When you got the safe open, was there a small box in it, made of inert lead isomer?
Yes.
What was inside the ILI box?
20 slugs that looked like compressed iodine crystals.
What did you do with the slugs?
Sent 2 out for analysis. No one could find out what they are. I'm trying to run analysis on a third in my lab, when I'm not clowning for the public.
Oh, you are you? Why?
I'm growing up, Belle. It didn't take much for me to figure out that was what Prestane and Dagenham were after.
Where have you got the rest of the slugs?
In a safe place.
They're not safe. They can't ever be safe. I don't know what pyre is, but I know it's the road to hell, and I don't want Saul walking it.
You love him that much?
I respect him that much. He's the first man that ever showed me an excuse for the double standard.
Belle, what is pyre? You know.
I've guessed. I've pieced together the hints I've heard. I've got an idea, and I could tell you, Gully, but I won't.
The fury in her face was luminous.
I'm running out on you this time. I'm leaving you to hang helpless in the dark. See what it feels like, boy. Enjoy.
She broke away from him and swept across the ballroom floor. At that moment, the first bombs fell. End of episode 11.